Hey everyone, so we did ADC, we did mid lane, and now it's time for top lane Kaisa. Even if it's the most niche lane out of the three, it's still a really viable lane for the champion. And it's also my personal favorite because it's with Kaisa top that I got Master for the first time ever. And it's also the reason why I even started this channel. And it's been 1 year since I made my first Kaisa top guide, so I think it's time for a nice update. We'll go over builds, the lane, matchups, and of course, if you like this content and don't want to miss out on any new Kaisa content or guides, make sure to subscribe. Alright, let's get started. So first off, why should you play Kaisa top in the first place? Compared to Kaisa mid lane, Kaisa top is more chill and focuses more on scaling and playing the lane smart. In mid lane, most matchups can poke you and fight you, so you need to know how to trade but also need to know Kaisa mechanics. Meanwhile in top lane, in most matchups you have the range advantage, so it's less volatile and you don't need good mechanics to make top lane work. But it's also way more boring because nothing happens for 15 minutes. This lane is all about not dying, farming, and playing the lane smart with wave management. But the second reason why AP Kaisa can be good is because you make sure that the one person in the enemy team that can be annoying in late game for AP Kaisa doesn't get fed. You see, AP Kaisa relies on fighting with your team at objectives and poking while being grouped. So if the enemy Camille or Garen is fed, their split push will force your team to always be split up, which doesn't really help AP Kaisa. Or if the enemy tank is fed, like Mundo for example, then they can tank your damage forever, which makes it hard for AP Kaisa to have some impact. So playing top lane, make sure that this one variable doesn't get strong. So if you're someone that likes to play it safe and prefers scaling over fighting, then top lane might be the better option over mid lane for solo lane Kaisa. And by the way, even if you prefer playing ADC, playing top lane may allow you to learn new stuff that is harder to learn in bot lane. Since top lane is a 1v1 and you're facing a bruiser or a tank, you are forced to learn positioning and knowing when is a good time to trade. You'll also be forced to learn wave management. These three concepts are not always needed bot lane because you have a support that can do the job for you. Take me for example, when I started my top lane journey, I was hard stuck plat, but with Kaisa top lane I felt alert so much in a couple months, allowing me to not only reach diamond with Kaisa top, but also reach master for the first time ever. And when I came back to play ADC with that new knowledge I learned, I was able to get diamond without any issue. So like I said, playing top lane or playing Kaisa mid can help you get better at Kaisa ADC. Alright, let's go over the build now. One thing though I must mention, and I did say that for Kaisa mid too, the biggest tip I can give to anyone that tries Kaisa top lane is to not be scared if your first couple games don't go well. Solo lane Kaisa takes time to get used to, so just keep playing till you figure out your playstyle and get more comfortable with matchups. For the build, it's simple AP Kaisa, so pretty much the same thing as AP Kaisa mid, but with some few tweaks. So in terms of runes, you have two options. The first one is the AP Kaisa rune page. So first strike into cashback into tonic and cosmic insight with absolute focus and gathering the storm. This is the scaling rune page that will give you the most amount of damage from your W and passive. But it does lack sustain in lane, so it's better to go for this only in matchups where Kaisa do well or in lane where nothing will happen and you just farm, like Ornn for example. The second option is the sustain one, so fleetwood work into life if you face poke or presence of mind if you don't. Then haste and cut down with or cashback and tonic or second wind and overgrowth if you face poke. Champions like for example Camille, Darius or Fiora can be hard to play into because they can win any trades if they land their abilities on you. So having the wind speed will help you kite them. And the healing of fleet allows you to have a more comfortable lane into matchups like for example Jace or Malphite that will poke you way harder from range. You might see that compared to mid lane, I'm not talking about HOB and that's for a good reason. Although there's a couple matchups I'll talk about later where HOB is better, in 95% of matchups HOB won't give you much value because they have just too much sustain and it's better to go for scaling. So without HOB, there is only one build you should focus on, and this is the classic AP Kaisa build. So for the scaling option, you can go for Mamine into Ludens, into Orzen Focus for the cheap option, Crypt Bloom if you face MR, or Shadow Flame when you're fed. Then you get Sorcy Boots into Deadcap and one more AP item. This can be Voice Staff, Zhonya's, Banshees, or even Liandry's. This is the most common AP Kaisa build that we are used to for years now. I really recommend to only focus on this build when you start playing Kaisa top lane. Oh, and for summoners, you want to mainly go for TP and Flash, unless for certain matchups like Darius and Olaf, where you want to run Ghost instead of TP. Because since Darius and Olaf also run Ghost, it allows you to match them so they don't run you down. Now matchups time, like before, from impossible to counter. For the bans you have two options, or Aurelia or Darius. When you're new to AP Kaisa top lane, I recommend banning Darius because he's just so annoying to play into, in the same logic that you ban Draven or Zed when you start playing Kaisa mid lane or ADC. But with time and when you get more comfortable, then Aurelia is a better ban because he, like Yasuo, their non-stop dashes makes it impossible to play Kaisa, because he can just poke you and you can't do anything about it. Kled is a another impossible matchup because his trades are just way too hard to play into. Apart from these 3 matchups, the rest is all possible to play. At the moment you don't make mistakes and don't die for 0 reason. Take Aatrox for example. He can be difficult, but after you get used to his trade patterns and his Q range, with Fleet, this matchup becomes way easier and you just farm for free for 50 minutes. CS lanes are lanes where you can't really kill the other side and have a hard time killing you. So just go for strike and farm, and that's it. Except for Malphite, where you do want to go for Fleet. Easy lanes are where Kaisa can perform her best, because you can actually apply pressure and be more aggressive. Champions like for example Sett and Garen have a really hard time getting on you, because you can just E away from them, and as soon as they use their only tool, which is Flash, they become pretty much useless and easy poke targets. So in those lanes, not only you don't need to be scared of dying that much, but you can also fight back. And finally, counters are Kaisa top best matchups. Vlad, Quinn, Twisted Fate, and Vayne because you can just go Eclipse and beat them, and Sin Jace because you can just outscale them. Now from my experience, 95% of the time, going Mamine is better, because going Eclipse into a Darius won't go well. But in some specific matchups like Vayne, Twisted Fate, Quinn, Vlad, Kel, and Teemo, you want to go Eclipse, because it's free OP. Take Teemo for example. When you reach Eclipse, your Q auto attack will do more damage than Teemo Q. Since Teemo main poke tool doesn't work anymore, the lane is over for him, because you can just force him off the wave, and if he ever tries to trade with you, you just Q auto attack and proc Eclipse. So for these matchups, here's the build. Hail Blades into Thistle Blood, Eyeball Collection, Treasure Hunter with Cashback and Tonic. And for the build, it's the same thing as Mamine, just replace Mamine with Eclipse. Now before we go over how to lane, I want to quickly talk about AP Kaisa mechanics you need to know. Since it's the same thing as AP Kaisa mid, I'm gonna reuse what I said in that video. First off, you need to learn how to use Kaisa RW. It means that you press W during your ultimate, which means that when you finish your ultimate, your W launches without having to wait for the 1 second cast time. It allows you to blow up people really fast when they don't expect it, and also it's hard to react to. But sometimes a simple RW won't be enough to one-shot someone, so there are 2 other variations that it's important to know about. The first one is to use your Q before your W. If you look at this E for example, I knew that I won't be able to one-shot her with a simple RW. So when I go in, I delay my W so I can use my Qs to do extra damage, so when my W and passive lands, it finished the kill easily. The second variation is to do even more damage before the passive, so you use auto attack and your Q before your W. Take this Rumble for example. I knew that Rumble didn't have flash in this clip, so he has no way to escape. So when I go in, I use my Q auto attack to get 4 stacks, and then I use my W to finish the kill. The second important mechanic you also want to learn is how to use flash W. It's the same idea. The idea is to cut down the W cast time. So press W first, and during the channel you can flash to get closer to the enemy, making it super hard to react to. So in lane, it's pretty simple. You get 3 stacks with auto attacks, and then you press W first and then flash to surprise them and finish the kill. But that's not the only way to use W flash. There's also a second option. Since flash resets your auto attacks, you can also do the same thing if the enemy has 2 stacks. If they are low enough, you can get them to 2 stacks with auto attacks and then W flash and 1 auto attack. And like I said before, since flash resets your auto attacks, as soon as your W goes out, your auto attack will also go out. This is something I do a lot of time, and because people simply don't expect it. And there you go. Now the best way to learn those mechanics is to go in practice tool, put down a dummy, and just spam RW and flash W, so you can get the hang of it. Now of course, in a real game it will still take some time to get used to it, but the more you play it, the better you will get. Now to end the guide, let's talk about how to lane as AP Kaisa top. It's important to understand that top lane is a heavy snowball lane. What I mean by that is that at the moment no one dies, you can farm safely. But if you start dying, even versus an easy matchup, the lane becomes almost impossible to play, because they will snowball so hard. So the main objective is simple. Don't die, farm, and scale. That's it. In the first couple levels, the biggest concern is the enemy jungle, but junglers are easy to predict. Most of the time, they will be on their second buff at 3 minutes time. 3 minutes represent the arrival of wave number 4. So this means in top lane, you want to do what I call a 3-wave shove. Slow push wave 1, slow push wave 2, and shove wave 3, while preventing the enemy laner from CSing. This will give you level 2 and level 3 advantage and an easy shove. After you shove your third wave, you should go ward. If you're on blue side, then you can ward this push, and if you're on red side, here you can actually go inside the enemy jungle and just check if the blue is being farmed or not. You can also use your W to check for grump. If the jungle is top side, or if you just don't know, then you can just let the wave 4, 5, and 6 push back into you. If you see the enemy jungle being bot side, then you can keep pressuring by shoving till you get level 6. After that, the rest of the lane is just a question of wave management. Farm as many waves as possible near a tower. By tanking the wave so it doesn't crash, by baiting the enemy top laner to damage the wave so it pushes into you, or by simply doing nothing and let the enemy top shove. I know it's crazy, but in low elo, even in high elo, it's so common to see a Mordekaiser or a Darius just perma shove and never try to freeze. If you see that the enemy top laner is always shoving, just let them do it. Don't interact and just farm for free. Now you might say, but if I let the wave build up and crash into my tower, won't I just get dived? Well, here's one thing I learned about playing Kaisa top lane for so long. Junglers don't care about top lane that much. At the moment you stay healthy, keep your thumbs up and your ult up, you're fine. They won't risk a dive. When talking about your ultimate, make sure to not waste it, because it's a great tool to escape a gank. And after that, when you get W evolution, it's the same thing as mid lane. Be with your team as much as possible and poke. You should only go in silence to defend a tower or shove a big wave, but as soon as you push the wave past the middle point of a lane, like here, you should go back to mid lane to help your team. And there you go, I hope this video helped you understand this niche top lane pick, and with that said, I'll see you all next time, bye bye.